instead. In most cases, the best way to save money on taxes is to pay yourself as much as possible through owner draws instead. Hey, TSP crew, this is Matthew Sercely with agoristaxadvice.com, here to answer another listener question. What do I do with surplus income? Long story short, finally seeing a decent income from a business built 5 years ago, uh, paid off company debt. I'm almost done paying off personal debt, and things are really picking up. I've recently given myself a small raise and I'm saving more personally, but I want to be smart with the extra income. A few quick questions. Should I increase my W-2 salary as an S Corp? Two, is it better to invest surplus funds from the business or transfer to my personal account first? Three, besides building reserves, are there any other specific or tax smart ways I should be investing in the business? I don't need new equipment right now, so I'm trying to avoid spending just to lower my taxes. Appreciate any advice. So first of all, remember, I am an attorney. I know a lot about taxes, but I am not any sort of a formal investment advisor. So don't take any of this as formal investment advice. Just talking about mostly taxes here and my personal preferences. So first of all, with an S Corp, you absolutely should increase your W-2 salary pretty much every year. Your W-2 salary should be reasonable for what you would pay somebody else to do what you do. If you aren't doing that, the IRS can come in and change the numbers, and you will not like how they change them. So yeah, wages are going up, salaries are going up. Your salary should increase every year. That said, in most cases, the best way to save money on taxes is to pay yourself as much as possible through owner draws instead. So, a 2, 3, 4, maybe 5% increase in salary per year should be plenty. I'm going to jump down to the new equipment thing. Thank you so much for not doing that. I hate the tax advice that so many people give of, oh, just go buy a new car and you can write it off. Well, if you don't need a new car, why are you spending, $60, $70, $80,000 to save maybe $30,000 in taxes? That's not a smart thing to do. Now, if you need the new car, maybe it's a great thing to do, but don't ever, ever, ever just spend money on something because it will lower your taxes, because borrowing a very small number of tax credits, it is never even break even. Going back to the second question, should I invest for my business or my personal account? Almost always, it does depend, but almost always transfer to your personal account first. That's both tax and asset protection reasons. If your business gets sued, they can take everything in your business, but they can't touch you as long as you're doing it right with your LLC or your corporation. But secondly, there can be some very nasty tax consequences of investing from the business. Eventually, if that income goes up too high, the IRS will start to categorize that income differently. It's a bigger problem with C Corps than S Corps, but it's always a problem. And then the other thing is, particularly for anything like Bitcoin or stock, if you ever transfer those things from the company to yourself, that's a taxable event with a corporation or anything taxed as a corporation. So if you've got a sole proprietorship and you buy Bitcoin and you're smart about it at 10,000 and now you want to transfer it to yourself at about 85,000, that's tax free. But if you transfer it from your S Corp, that's a $75,000 capital gain you're going to owe tax on. So particularly for anything that's going to appreciate in value, I would highly advise you to move it into your personal account. Similarly, especially if you're investing in something like real estate, you never want to do that through an S Corp. There's no benefit to it and there can be costs. What would I do with the extra income? Kind of depends on how much we're talking about. If it's $5,000 a year, it's a little different than it's $50,000 a year. I really love real estate. I don't know of any better tax advantaged investing than there is in, smart buy and hold real estate. It's not the best time to invest in real estate right now, but it's not a terrible time either if you can find the right deals. And, given that you're in home inspection, you may have some contacts to do that. Obviously, I think several people are thinking what Jack might say, put something in Bitcoin if you're not already. I think that's a good idea. But really, when it comes to investments like this, I think the best way to do it is you should have kind of categories of what you want to invest in. Maybe it's I want to put 10% in gold and silver, 10% in Bitcoin, 25% in real estate, the rest in stocks or whatever. Kind of maintain those numbers. Figure out what those are, look at them maybe once a year, once every other year to see are these numbers still reasonable or do I want to shift them? And keep investing in that. Ultimately, there are we want to consider tax in our investments, but if they're investments, the primary thing we want to do is make sure we are, well, A, not losing money and B, making money, right? It's really easy to not owe any taxes by not making any money, and then you don't care about the taxes. So, you know, whatever you're going to invest in, make sure that it's a smart investment. Make sure that it is something that you think is going to grow your own personal wealth and go from there. The other thing I would definitely advise looking into with this, though, is investing some of it in the company, whether that's, better advertising, better marketing, considering whether a virtual assistant or something could help you out, and also self-improvement stuff. If there are things in your life that could be improved, maybe it's health. Maybe you want to hire a fitness coach to try to get into better health. Maybe it's, you need to learn some skills. Spending money improving yourself is usually a good investment, whether that's in your skills, whether that's in your health, could be mental health, could be physical health. And the final thing is, if you're like me and you're like a lot of business owners, you spend a lot of time in your business. If you have a family, definitely spend some of this money on your family. Build those memories with your kids. Build those memories with your spouse if you are married. I there's lots of people who talk about this, but when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to think about, man, I wish I had $1,000 more in my pocket, but maybe you're going to think about that great vacation you had that brought you closer to your family. So that can be an investment too in social capital, and it's a thing that's really, really easy to finance.